Welcome to week 9 lecture. This week's film was The Host. I hope you had a chance to watch and enjoy the film. And before we move on to the group presentations, I want to talk about what is the correct timestamp, right? So what it says is when the term was mentioned, right? So it didn't say it was not appeared or it was it didn't say it was appeared or it was presented, right? So in this presentation, we have verbal input and visual input, right? So the term can appear verbally or visually, but when it is mentioned in this kind of traditional form of a presentation, it is of course verbally mentioned, right? It's talked about, spoken, right? So because if you think of the nature of the verbal and visual input, the visual input is there to support the verbal presentation, right? So this presentation can be done verbally 100%, but with visual input, it helps the audience understand the content better, right? That's why we have this visual input. And when the term was mentioned in this kind of traditional presentation, it is again verbally spoken, right? Then then there's this visually in the PowerPoint slide, there's this term shows, right? Then it appears there, right? But you have to catch when it was spoken, and of course there's this visual input there, and it matches, right, at the same time. But then the problem is if you say, oh, professor, at different times visual input in this PowerPoint, that term is appears, right? But then that PowerPoint, one slide is not just used for a few seconds only. One slide it's used for a duration. So for the correct timestamp, if you're talking about the visual input alone, you have to give a duration of the times. I mean, from what second to what second when the PowerPoint slide was on, right, in the presentation. So a minority of students just pick a random time as long as the PowerPoint shows that term as when the term was mentioned. But that is not correct. What is correct is when the term is mentioned, talked, spoken. And of course, if you pick the right correct timestamp, it's verbally, you can see both verbal and visual input. If there's only visual input and verbally was spoken another time, then you're giving a wrong timestamp, right? I want to make sure that everyone understands what it is. And I've never heard visually mentioned. it's of course mentioned is verbal, right? And if this presentation is visual only, maybe we can use mention, for that meaning. But this is not a visual only presentation. It's like a traditional presentation. Mainly like the verbal delivery is the main and the visual input is an aid, right? Okay, so group 9's presentations had a good intro with a verbal introduction of the group members and the table of contents, but a group member's face was not fully shown. It's always better to show the full face, right? And it needs definitely more transition work, and the proper conclusion was missing, and it ended up, before the presenter finishes the sentence. So it need more otting. In terms of the oral delivery, it delivered the content, so no problem there. But it sounded more like too much reading of the script than kind of talking, right? I know most presentations, you're reading off the script, right? But then you need to add something more than just reading off the script kind of feel to go beyond. So more animated or more enthusiastically, or giving some pose and things like that. And the film reaction section need to focus on the emotional adjectives such as shocking, thrilling, enjoyable, things like that. So the film reaction section, I says collective response or collective reaction, meant to be as a group, you don't need to say, oh, group A said it's shocking, group B, the member A said shocking, member B said sad, or member C said thrilling. You don't need to do that. As a whole, overall, you guys, how you felt emotionally after watching the film, even before reading, any articles, right? And two things learned again is something you learned from the watching film. There's something striking about Korean people, culture, whatever, society, right? Not through the reading, just by watching the film. That's like these two subsections are meant to be just only about the film, watching the film, how you felt after watching it, and what two major things you learned about Korea through the film, right? Just don't go on to any reading content for these sections, right? And the discussion, questions, and answers were well done. But the three aspect sections need to show more clearly the relationship between the reading and the film beyond summarizing the reading. The first section did better than the other two sections. And the external web resources sections was not clearly presented in the presentation. And the division of labor and the reference list were missing at the end. And Group 10's presentation was, it had a great intro with a verbal introduction of the group members. Really, really well made PowerPoints, and editing job was very smooth, but the table of content was missing, and more transitional work would have been helpful. And organization itself, I think, need to be a little more streamlined. Maybe mainly because it was missing the table of contents, so it's difficult for the audience to expect what's coming. And another reason why was that it kind of followed a little bit different order of the presentation from the previous presentation. So it was a little bit confusing because of that, without the table of content. And the reaction section, again, most to show the group as a whole group, emotional reactions, responses to the film, right? By using these adjectives, but the way of using the collective response, like it was collective response should be about the emotional, about the reactions, right? It was a little bit different from what was asked for. So this group used this collective response in each argument section, and two things learned section, but in the presentation was 4 things learned, was good. But then this section is a little bit confusing because the subsection title of this section contains reaction, like the emotional reaction. So it seems like two subsections are kind of merged into one. And the first discussion, question and answer was well done in asking the audience to relate to issues, the issue to different cultural contexts. And the second discussion, question and answer were also good. And the 3 connection sections need to show the relationship between the reading film and the external readings or resources more clearly. And the third connection, wasn't sure the connection was made to what kind of external resource, or it was only just internal film and reading, right? Okay, so I want to talk about the final project, the film analysis project, right? So the nature of the project is you are producing persuasive writing, either written form or video form. So what persuasive mean is you have to come up with an argument, which we call a thesis statement, that is backed up by evidence. So that's how you persuade people. You have to provide the evidence, right? So choose one Korean film, but if you want 2 Korean films, that's fine. You can maybe want to compare. You want to put a comparative spin on it. But if you choose one Korean film outside of the course, then maybe you can compare that film that you choose with film that we from the course, right? So choose one Korean film or maybe 2 that engages with any of the following themes that we have so far covered, or we will cover. So Japanese colonization and its legacy through the issues of comfort woman, the Korean War and national division. We watch it like JSA and Shiri, right? And the democratization movement, we watched Peppermint Candy, and contemporary social issues that Korea faces, like gender issues, migration, changing demographics, like, and class struggle, social inequality, environmental issues, like this week's film host, right? And in relation to gender issues, we watched My Sassy Girl. Immigration, changing demographics, we watched the film Punch, right? So find the Korean film deals with its main theme is one of those, the themes that we covered in the class, right? And what the required components: intro, body, and conclusion, right? That's how persuasive writing goes, or even video, doesn't matter. Intro and the body section, that's where you show the analysis, right? And your analysis is how you back up your thesis statement, right? So in the intro, you have to introduce your film, like film title, of course, and the director and the release date, and provide brief overview of historical and social context of the film. And here you have to state your thesis statement. And then in your analysis part, the body part, you have to support your argument, support your thesis statement, right? And through this detailed examination of a specific film scenes or the film as a whole, right? You have to refer to, like, when you say specific scenes, again, the timeline, right? Provide the timestamp, right? The film, which scenes from the film are you talking about? Timestamp there, right? And here you have to integrate your analysis with the course concepts and themes in the body part, right? And in the conclusion part, you provide a synthesis of your findings, and possibly, if you add a discussion of the film's contribution to Korean cultural discourse. Okay, so when you do your analysis, right, please think of these elements here, right? So situate the film within its specific historical period and social context, right? And analyze how the film reflects contemporary cultural attitude and social changes, right? For example, My Sassy Girl, you can see like these gender stereotypes, how the gender stereotypes are challenged, and then examine how the film reflects or challenge dominant social and cultural norms and ideologies. Maybe in JSA, it challenges the dominant social ideologies, making North Koreans are like all monsters, right? It challenges, right? It shows that they can be friends, right? And discuss how the film's narrative and characters embody or resist specific ideological positions, right? So in My Sassy Girl, the girl, kind of resists this traditional gender role, right? She resists this being positioned as like a very docile female character, right? And next very important aspect in your analysis, you have to integrate the course materials, right? Connect the film themes to specific course readings and lectures by making reference to the relevant readings and films from the course, right? And compare and contrast the film's perspectives with the ones that you studied in the class, right? And you demonstrate your understanding of how the film relates to the broader course themes. So this updated and detailed guideline, along with the updated evaluation criteria for written and also for the video report, I will post this on our e-class. So please, when you work together, please read the guidelines carefully, and then refer to the evaluation criteria as well. And if your group has a question or questions about the project, please feel free to contact me. And I want to move on, what I want to just add on to the presentations. Just talking about the director Bong Jun-ho. So, his film, The Host, is only his third one. And when he made his film, he was only 37 years old, right? So the first one is this black comedy, the first, and it's like I think the English title is The Barking Dog Never Dies, or it's about a dog. You can see a dog here, right? And the second one was Memories of Mother, and it's such an captivating movie. If you like anything like, you know, topics like this, highly recommended to watch. And the third one was The Host, right? So, you know, he writes his own you know, script, and and not only he's a director, he's a screenwriter too, right? So he writes his own story, and he's a genius, and he's very talented. And after Kwemu, he made The Host, he made Mother. And yeah, while he was making The Host, he was already thinking of the next films, Mother and Snowpiercer, the next one, and the following one, Okja, and then the world famous now, The Parasite, right? So actually, if you see these posters, you can find you know, the character, the father in The Host, his the actor Song Kang-ho. You find him in Memories of Mother here too, and also Snowpiercer, and also in Parasite. But you know, you also watched his film before, like in Shuri, and also in JSA. So Song Kang-ho is one of the most famous Korean actors, and you know, actually Bong Jun-ho said you know, when he writes his you know, screenplay, sometimes he just writes first and then find the actors, right? But for The Host, he already picked Song Kang-ho in his mind, the actor in mind, and he wrote his screenplay after already choosing him as the character, right? And just I want to share this is the photo of Bong Joon-ho, and you know, he's quite young, right? He's, you know, he was born in 1969, so he has, you know, many more years to produce other more excellent films. But he said he interviewed more than 200 times after The Host was released, and I think the ticket 13 million tickets were sold for this film. So if you think of the whole population of South Korea is, you know, close to 50 million. I mean, 2006 it wasn't quite 50 million, but 13 million tickets were sold within Korea. That's, you know, 1 out of 5 Koreans, including everybody, like younger and, you know, older. That's a lot of people, you know. It's a lot of you can see how successful this film was, right? And I just wanted to share this quote from his various interviews after this film was released. So he said, I make film that I want to watch because no one else makes them, right? So so you can see that he's a big movie fan himself, right? He loves films. That's why he became a director, right? And he said when he was like at middle school, he had a list of over 100 films that he wanna watch, right? So he's a big fan of, you know, obviously of film and movies. Then he became a director himself. And regarding this film, like, you know, Host, he said it is very sad because our society is scarier than the monster, because, you know, when this family needed help, the government and the society didn't really help them, and they had to go out and, you know, try to save their family member, right? So have you ever received any help from the government or the society when you're in a, you know, when you're in trouble, right? And he said monster is scary, but the society or the government that doesn't help people is even scarier, right? And he also said, I will make a film that breaks the, you know, conventions of a genre. So for example, you know, the monster films, the convention is that you know, the monster is kind of hidden. So, you know, from at the beginning, you don't know the what the monster is. So it's scary. You don't know. It's mysterious, and the identity of the monster, it's kind of revealed toward the more like not at the beginning, but for his film The Host, the identity of the monster was revealed at toward the beginning of the film, right? That's how it breaks the conventions of genre, right? Or for his film like Memories of Murder, usually the convention is that at the end, the murder, the identity of murder was revealed and then was caught, right? But in the film, you will never know who was the murderer, or who is the one, right? And then you don't catch him, right? And he also said the clash between everyday life and fantasy, the clash between genre and Korean things, I think that is ultimately the character of the film I pursue. So I think one of the groups mentioned that the globalization of Bong Joon-ho's film, that the influence of the external influence of the Hollywood films, or influence of the USA, things like that, right? Or influence of the Japanese monster film, things like that, right? So in his mind, it's not just a one-sided influence. He likes this, like when he said genre, that's like the monster genre, or murder film genre, or like whatever genre is very it's non-Korean thing. It's like an external influence, like the conventions of genre is already set outside of Korea, right? So by the crash between the genre and Korean things, those two things crash, but then what he create is not the same as the influenced by influenced by the genre itself, or not just purely Korean things, right? So through this crash, he's creating something unique, something like that is Bong Joon-ho's film, right? So that's how hybridity works. So now you're not just merging like A and B together, right? You're kind of creating something quite different from A and something quite different from B, right? By this clash between these two things, and then you create, you produce something quite new, quite unique, and quite different, right? So I think his film is, not just the influence of the external Western or non-Korean stuff, but in his mind, the other big part is the Korean things, right? Whatever Korean things that are. So it's, through the clash of the non-Korean things and Korean things, he's creating very unique, right? His own, Bong Joon-ho's film, right? And he's creating his own Bong Joon-ho film genre, right? So this is it for today's lecture, and thank you for your attention.